You're listening to the Presidential Experience Podcast, the place where we chronicle man's search for meaning over money. I'm your host, Kanae Corder, National Certified Counselor and Clinical Hypnotherapist specializing in financial therapy for high achievers. As a former Morgan Stanley financial advisor, I realized that high achievers needed help with more than just the numbers. And I bring a unique set of skills to my private practice as I guide CEOs and high achievers on how to manage their stress so they can enjoy their success. I want to bring some of that to you here. So each week, we'll start a discussion addressing one of the top stressors for high achievers. You've built a stellar resume. Now it's time for you to build a stellar life. Your hard work brought you money. Now it's time to turn that money into meaning here on the Presidential Experience Podcast. What's the meaning of life, Kanae? That's a question many of my patients ask me in my private practice. Are you asking that question? Man's search for meaning over money can be stressful. Would you like some guidance? Would you like to reduce the stress associated with searching for the meaning of life? Here's what you can do. Start by taking our Meaning of Life quiz. Go to presidentiallifestyle.com/meaning-quiz. It'll give you insight into how far or close you are to finding the meaning of life. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever asked someone for directions? Of course you have. We all have. But what is the first thing they need to know when you ask them, how do I get here? They ask you, well, where are you coming from? So the first step in finding the meaning of life is determining where you are in life right now. Are you a chief? Are you a mayor? Maybe you're a governor. Or maybe you're a president and you just haven't figured that out yet. Get the steps to finding the meaning of life. And you know what? You may not be that far away, but you don't know if you don't take the quiz. So go to presidentiallifestyle.com/meaning-quiz. That's presidentiallifestyle.com/meaning-quiz. At the end, give us your email address and we'll give you a special audio training that'll help guide you to finding the meaning of life and turning your money into meaning. So go to presidentiallifestyle.com/meaning-quiz. Take the quiz. It'll only take you about 5 minutes. It's totally free. Give us your email address and we'll give you that special audio training that will guide you through turning your money into meaning and finding the meaning of life. You can go now or you can go later. The link is in the show notes. Either way, I'll see you there. Welcome to Presidential Experience. I am super excited about today's episode. And the reason is because I get to hang out with one of my good friends and one of the most generous people I know. And you know that question I ask when I say, how do you want to show up in the world? Well, that question is, what are people saying when you're not in the room? And so our guest, Bill Dorfman, is somebody that I would say is generous. But not only that, he is consistent. And one of my favorite things about him is that he's super healthy, and he's going to share all of that with us today. We're going to talk about what it feels like to be a startup, what it feels like to exit a company, and what it feels like all between how you manage that stress. So I know that sounds like a lot, but when we get together, we have full conversations, no surface here. So guys, please join me in welcoming our guest today, Bill Dorfman. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Kanae, how are you?
I am super awesome. And I'm so glad we get to hang out today because we just don't get to do it enough.
That's true, but you're always in my heart.
Yes, I know that. Thank you. And that's what I mean when I say you are one of the most generous people I know and one of the most consistent and absolutely one of the healthiest people I know. So I'm so glad that you're going to share this journey that you've had with us. But I want to start by asking you, what is your idea of prosperity?
It's really just a state of well-being of, you know, for whatever form that is for you. If you want to know, for me personally, being prosperous was just being able to um, be able to provide for my family, my friends, and myself. And when I got to a point where that became a reality, I felt prosperous. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. And it plays out in your life. Really, it does. I mean, I have so many stories where we probably didn't get a chance to hang out enough. And you're like, hey, Kane, what are you doing this weekend? Come do this with me. And then next thing I know, I'm in Vegas or I'm in Louisiana judging the Miss USA pageant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had incredible experiences with you. And I think you are living your idea of prosperity. Really, you have provided for yourself, your family. I've seen you raise three beautiful daughters. And yeah. So I say you're living it. You.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, as I said in the introduction, we want to talk to you a little bit about what it felt like years ago being a startup and how you pushed through that, but then also that evolution from startup to exit and what that felt like and the difference between those two, and for you to give us a little color about how you manage the stress of running a multi-million dollar company. And most of our listeners are people in the beginning of that. They're somewhere in the middle, I should say. They're in the middle of that and they're finding it hard to keep going. So we're looking to someone like you, which I would consider you an expert in this, to kind of give us some color around what that journey looks like in real life.
All
So,
right.
yes. So
Well,
let's start with being a startup. And how many years ago was that?
so let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Let's take it way back. For those of you who don't know me, I am a dentist. I have been practicing dentistry now for 37 years. And I think that, Kane and I met in a very unusual way, at a very pivotal point in my life. And I'll get into that in a second. But
Yes.
starting at the beginning, I mean, I was just the normal guy going to dental school. I grew up poor. I didn't ever travel. I hadn't really seen any of the world. And I realized, I'm graduating dental school at 24. And if I tie myself down to a practice, I'll never see anything. So I heard about a program in Switzerland. There were 400 applicants. They should never have picked me. I had no experience. I didn't speak French. I mean, why would they take me? But I was tenacious, and that is my word, tenacity.
Mm.
And I sent this, director probably 20 letters of recommendation. I called him weekly, and at one point I was on the phone with him and something happened, and I have later defined that as what I call a life defining moment. And
Mm.
these are moments in your life. You and I had one, Kane,
Yes.
where you may plan it, you may not plan it, but it definitely changes the direction of your life. And in my life defining moment, I realized I was not getting anywhere with this man. And so I said, hey, can I take you to lunch? And he's like, lunch? You're in San Francisco. I'm in Switzerland. I'm like, that's okay. I'll fly out, which was a joke because I had no money. But he said yes, and I found money, and I flew out there, and I met him face to face, and he hired me. Why? because out of 400 applicants, I was the only one that did that.
Yeah.
And one of the things we teach at LEAP, and I run a motivational leadership program for high school and college kids every summer. You can go to www.leapfoundation.com. It's for 15 to 25-year-olds. And one of the things that I preach at LEAP is successful people will do the things that unsuccessful people are not willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only one who recommended having a lunch meeting. And I think it impressed him. I was this 24-year-old little dude that, got on a plane and flew out to meet the director, and he hired me.
Wow.
So that was a life-defining moment for me. I practiced in Switzerland. I came back. I started practicing. I've always believed in mentors. I had a great mentor, Dr. Bud Hoffman, who was a great cosmetic dentist. And, right around 1988, tooth whitening had been, invented. And I was doing a lot of it, being in the heart of Beverly Hills, Hollywood and all that, but I didn't like any of the products. They were not good. They weren't well made. They weren't well packaged. And so I got this idea to make it better. And so I called the leading company, and they actually verified that I was using more tooth whitening product than anybody else in the country. And I say, I want to be on your advisory board. I want to help. And they're like, you're 30 years old. Get out of here. So it turns out, and this was a TED Talk I give, and that almost every time that I have really tried to do something philanthropically to help, I ended up making a lot of money. Not because that was my intention.
Yep.
And so I was involved in a children's cancer research fundraising project. And there I met my now best friend, Robert Heyman, who became my business partner. He is from the Giorgio family, grew up in the cosmetic industry, and he knew how to make whitening gel. And so Robert and I teamed up and started a company called Discus Dental. Discus Dental, we started with no funds. It was all blood, sweat, and tears. But we managed to do almost $2 million our first year in sales with night white and day white. Mm-hmm. Later on, we got to a point where we had Zoom on the market. We were plateaued at about $60, $70 million a year. We just couldn't break that barrier because of white strips and all these other products.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was fortunate enough, as were you, to be cast on an amazing TV show that ABC had called Extreme Makeover.
Yes.
And, one thing that you may not know as a listener, I know Kanae knows because she's heard my story before, but every single person on that show got paid. The plastic surgeons, the hairstylists, the weight trainers, every person. The only person on that show that did not get paid a penny was me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because at the time we had just launched Zoom, the tooth whitening product. And in the first episode, all they had me do was 3 Zoom whitenings. Well, after that first episode, we got picked up for a full season. So I went into ABC and I said, look, I see the potential in this. We were like one of the very first reality shows. And I said, I would like to be the only dentist, and I'll do all the dentistry for free if you'll highlight Zoom in every episode. Another life-defining moment. And they said yes. So I was the only dentist on the show. I wanted to take care of all the patients. I wanted to make sure they had good aftercare, and I wanted to make sure that it was done right. And I wanted to make sure that Zoom was highlighted.
Yeah.
And in that first year on the show, our sales jumped from 76 million to 101.
Wow.
The next year we did 136 million. And the third year we did 176 million in sales.
Yeah.
And from the time we started that company until we sold it to Philips in 2010, we did $1.3 billion in sales.
Wow. That is so awesome. I want to touch on a couple things you said though. So You talked about extreme makeover being a life defining moment. And you talked about everybody else getting paid. And those were short term payments, right? They got paid for doing that. And then they never saw any more money after that because it wasn't like it was a union gig or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Right.
It was kind
And
of
yours
like,
was long term money where that you did it for
well,
free, but you made money in the future.
right. I mean, the thing is, like, if you were a plastic surgeon and you were doing a procedure that you would normally charge a patient, say $20,000 for, ABC would pay you 10,000.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
but I made a deal with them where I would be the only dentist, and I would do all of it for free. And another big part of that was Da Vinci, because my
Yes.
lab bills were expensive and I didn't want to have to then put out 10,000, 20,000 bucks in lab bills. So I had them mention Da Vinci veneers on every episode, and
I
that made
remember that.
that laboratory explode. So it
Yeah,
was
I
a
do.
win-win-win all the way around.
It totally was. It was a win-win-win for me because, I mean, I'm sure, I'm guessing you don't mind me telling, but I wouldn't have been on the show if it wasn't for you. You basically let ABC know that there was a story there because they didn't see the story. They were like, she's not crying. It's not that
You
big a
know what?
deal.
I actually don't take credit for that. I
Okay.
think that goes to Jackie Pittman. I
Okay.
think Jackie was the one who really pushed you through because when you originally interviewed, I remember talking to Jack about this. When you originally interviewed, you put on
Mhm.
your soldier face.
Yeah.
And I remember Jackie telling me she went out and said, "Hey, Kane, they're not going to put you on the show
Yeah.
if you don't really let them know how this has affected your life." And then after that was step one. Step two was me saying, "Yeah, we can fix this problem," because they didn't
Yeah.
know. They had no idea. They weren't doctors, you know. They're
Right.
like, "Yeah,
Right.
we see the problem, but now what?" And I was the one that
Yes.
said, "No, no, no. We can fix this with Dr. Fisher and me. We can do this."
Yeah. Yeah. And thanks for clarifying that too. And I agree. And she did, Jackie Pittman. She came to me and she was like, I don't know why you are acting like this didn't affect you. And I was like, because they keep asking me about my life right now. And I've learned to deal with it. Like I'm a soldier, like you said, like I had my warrior face
Right.
on. And so I had learned to deal with it. By that time, I was 29 years old. But if you ask me what it felt like to be 9 or 10 when it was first happening and my lips were changing, and guys, we'll talk about, I've talked about this story in the past. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can hear more about it. But as my lips were changing and I was starting to get teased, that's when it was affecting me. But my family was so supportive. We built each other's confidence up that over the years, I learned how to deal with it. So I didn't have that challenge anymore about how to deal with it as much as it was like, I don't like it. Like if I have to admit I don't like it, I don't like it. And that was kind of my attitude about it. But that wasn't reality TV at that time. They wanted to see some crying, some drama. And I didn't give them the drama. And then Jackie was like, hey, you need to dig down deep and find that drama and bring it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
So it was a life defining moment for me as well. After that, I mean, I learned so much just from that process. And with you explaining how you went in to negotiate basically your deal in that is a very awesome example for business owners to look at long-term money over short-term money because that's what it sounds like you were doing. You were looking at how this can advance your company long term.
Absolutely. And I didn't even know the extent of the success that we would reap from this, but we became a household word. People started walking into dental offices saying, "I want to be Zoom." That was like
Mm.
music to my ears,
Yep. Yep.
and
And I can tell
it
you
enabled
that
us.
every single time I've gone to the dentist since you've been my dentist, people come out, the dentist comes out to meet me. Because they're like, wait a minute, Bill Dorfman?
That's so funny, Kane. My mom and dad went out to dinner last night at a little restaurant in Westlake. And Um, Next to them was a party, an office party, and my mom said the people were just so sweet and friendly and beautiful, and so she just happened to say, "Hey, what kind of office do you guys have?" And they said, "Oh, we're a dental office. This is our doctor." And they introduced her, and she said her name, and he goes, "You're not related to Bill Dorfman, are you?" She goes, "Well, actually, I am." And she said he took the next 10 minutes telling her how I single-handedly changed dentistry, made it popular, made it not scary, even gave it a little bit of sex appeal. And he just went on and on and on. My mom said she just like her eyes welled up with tears. Like, here's this perfect stranger in a restaurant, doing this whole thing on her son. It was pretty funny.
It is. It's so cool. Yes, I love your mom. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
she's the
is
best, huh?
she is, she is. And I remember one of the reasons why I say you are the most generous is because of stories like that. Like you give to the dental industry something that they didn't have. And I remember speaking at Extravaganza years ago, and I talked about on that stage about the prestige. Like, I had to find prestige in who I was, even with this challenge of my lips. And I remember dentistry, doing some research on dentistry and how dentists didn't have that prestige at that time. And I agree with that, man. You brought a certain prestige to being a dentist because you are a celebrity dentist. Like, you do work on celebrities, but you yourself have kind of become a celebrity in your own way.
Aw.
I'm telling you, just like what happened to your mom, that happens to me all the time when people, and sometimes people will remember me because they were in your office. Like, and if I'm in LA, or not even some dental students, they'll say, "Hey, I know you. I saw a picture of you with Dr. Bill Dorfman." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, wow, you have
How
a great
funny.
memory." Yeah. So you have really impacted. And that's why I thought it was important that we talk today, because it is great to be a startup and exit a company and sell and make billions of dollars. But that is the least of what you have done, the billions of dollars, that generosity, that heart to serve. You skated over it a little bit, but I want to go back to it because I remember going to San Diego with you one year, and I think it was the project you had with children and cancer, and talk a little bit more about some of the philanthropic work that you do.
You know, from the second my company started making money, we gave back.
Mm,
And, for me, that's a very, very important responsibility that I
yeah.
feel that we all have, and when you are in a position where you are, financially, gaining, I think that it's a responsibility that you should take seriously to also, help people that need help.
Hmm.
For me, that's the best part of making money is being able to share the wealth like that. I have no respect for these celebrities that make tens of millions of dollars and do nothing
Mm,
philanthropic for the world. I have literally no respect for them.
hmm.
And these kids that, want to be famous just to be famous.
Mm,
Again, zero respect for them.
yeah.
For me, being able to have a platform where I can use it to help people is really the only reason that there's any value in any kind of fame or recognition. Maybe I'm just a weird guy that I feel that way, but that's really how I do feel. And Kane, you know me, and you
Yes.
know my life, so some of the things that I've been very passionate about is my LEAP Foundation. It's a motivational leadership program for high school and college kids where we get 400 kids. 60% come from impoverished families. They go to UCLA every year. It's last week of July, and we bring in great mentors. And a lot of my patients have been very, very supportive. Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Hopkins, Kathy Bates, Paula Abdul, Jonathan Bennett, Michael Strahan, Usher, Apollo Ono. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But it's
Yeah.
been an amazing program. And again, for anybody wanting information, just go to www.leapfoundation.com. As a result of Leap Connect, this is another one of those examples where I didn't even try to like make this a success. I just wanted to give back again. And so they started editing a lot of the interviews I did. We launched a podcast ourselves called Meet the Mentor. My podcast is in the top 100 in 7 countries worldwide. I
Wow.
just found out yesterday it is number 3 in Finland, of all things.
Wow.
And you ready for this? 94 in the United States in a category with 47,000 podcasts.
Wow. That
So
is,
again, this was not something I planned. We just put this stuff out and bam. And so now I'm being approached by all these companies that want to help me monetize that. And of course, I'll use all that money to sponsor Kids for Leap. So I'm super duper excited about that.
yeah. And I remember years ago, I sent one of my clients' daughters, she got a scholarship to Leap, and
Yeah.
it changed her life. She loved it, raved about it for years, and she's an adult now. That was years ago. I think she was in college at the time. But yeah, she's an adult now. And I've been a mentor at Leap. So
Yes, you have.
mhm.
And we would love you back anytime you can come. It's always the last week of July.
All right, I'm on the put me on the calendar. You know, I'd love to come back to LA as often
All
as I
right.
possibly can.
Yeah, we'll do it. But
Okay.
I mean, I think, if you had to boil it down to
Mhm.
what really is my secret sauce,
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you, it's that one word. It's tenacity,
Yep.
tenacity, tenacity, tenacity. And I have all these kids running up to me at least. They're like, Dr. Bill, what's the secret of success? It's like they want a pill or something. I'm like, work your buns off. That's the secret. Oh, really? Really? Yeah, no, really. Work your buns off. That's the secret. So, and you gotta be tenacious. You've got to be tenacious, and I'll leave you with one last thought. I never fail.
Mm,
Never, ever fail. And you
totally.
don't ever have to fail either. And I'll tell you why. It's called mindset. If I do something and it doesn't come out the way I wanted it to come out, that's not failure. That's practice. Then you
Mm.
do it again. And if you don't succeed, that's not failure. That's more practice. And then you do it again and again and again and again until you get the desired result. So you have not failed. What you've been doing is practicing for your success.
Mm. I
You
love that.
you only fail when you quit. And since I am tenacious, I never quit. Thus,
Mm.
I never fail.
Wow. So before you go, talk to me about how that affects your stress level and how you handle stress going through it. Is that how you have handled the stress of running a multi-million dollar or $1 billion company?
First of all, I don't really stress out.
You
That's
don't.
just not my thing.
I
No,
know.
I always stay cool because I
Yes.
always know there's a solution, right?
Mm.
And when people ask me how I accomplish as much as I do, I'm going to tell you the secret. Jeanette, Nicole, and Evelyn. That's my secret. Jeanette runs my dental office. Nicole runs my life. And Evelyn, my ex-wife, runs my whole family stuff. That's how I succeed. I delegate. I let people work with me to do what I need to do to get stuff done.
Yep. That is so true. And you've always been really good about that. You'll, oh, Kanae, call Sinette. She'll do it. Like, call Nicole, connect it up, make it happen. You do a very good job of that. Delegating people. want to be in control. When I talk about controlling the controllable, because in the presidential experience, that's really the program that I teach is controlling the controllable. And one of those areas is to delegate. You gotta learn how to delegate. You hire the people, let them do their jobs, and then you can do your job.
That's right. It's the only way.
Yes. Thank you for that. So I close every episode with this one question, and that is, what is the best advice you've ever received or the advice you wish somebody would have told you? Now, you can use that in business. If you say the best business advice, the best life advice, whatever you want to give. So, what the best advice you've ever received or the advice you wish somebody would have told you?
I'll tell you, the best advice I ever received was from my mentor. We lost him a few years ago. He was a world famous cosmetic dentist, past president of the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, an artist, a philanthropist, just an amazing, amazing Renaissance man named Jeff Golub Evans. And he came to my office one day in the middle of Extreme Makeover. Now I was working 60 hours a week as a dentist, Monday to Friday, and then filming on Saturday, 14 hours, 15 hours. And he sat me down and he looked me in the eye. He said, Bill, what are you going to do? Drill teeth your whole life? And I was like, whoa.
Mm.
Like, that was like a slap in the face. I was like, whoa, dude, you're right. I had never taken a day off of work. To this day, Kanae, I'm 61 years old. I've never missed a day of work for being sick in my entire life.
I believe it.
I know for being sick. Now, my wife, Evelyn, made me take 2 weeks vacation every year, which I did. So, but I mean, since then, things have changed a lot, but I mean, I honestly didn't look past drilling teeth.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm doing. Right.
Yeah.
So, it's, yeah. And once I realized that that wasn't the only thing I had to do in my life, things changed.
Wow. Yes. And that's it. Because that's the message that we always trying to get out there is turning your money into meaning. And that's what it sounds like you did. You found meaning in your life. You realized that drilling teeth was not all that you were here for. And there was this whole family and that generosity and everything else that
That's
you,
right.
yeah. And you give so much. And the time in the gym, we didn't even get to talk about that, but your time in the gym. So
Just,
guys,
you know what? Just
yes.
have them go on my Instagram.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Bill Dorfman. They'll get a good idea what I do.
Yes. So right before we're going to tell you exactly how you can follow Bill. But I want you guys to know, podcast listeners, this is where we leave you. We're going to go deeper into the presidential experience with our private club. But before we go, I want Bill to tell you his Instagram and where you guys can hang out with him there. And then also about Leap again. So where you can go if you want to find out more about Leap. So Bill, tell them where they can read you.
I'm going to leave you with 4 things. Number 1, Instagram. It's just at Dr. Dr. Bill Dorfman. My website you can go to is Dr. Bill Dorfman, DRBILL Dorfman, DRFMAN.com. My Instagram, and Facebook and all those things are all the same. Twitter, everything. For information on LEAP, go to www.leapfoundation.com. And for my podcast, just go on the podcast, Meet the Mentor. You'll see a big picture of me.
Awesome. We will put all of that in the show notes, all the social media, all the websites and the podcast. So if you guys don't get it, just scroll into the show notes and click and you'll get it. And so I just want to give a warm Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As always, you laid it out there for everybody. So generous, so honest, and so tenacious. Thank you.
All right. Love you, Kene. Bye bye.
Love you too. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Want to reduce your stress even more? Here are 4 ways you can do it. 1, send us your questions. Ask us anything about money, marriage, or maturing. You can send it to podcast@presidentiallifestyle.com. Number 2, subscribe to this podcast. You wouldn't want to miss an episode. That would be stressful. And number 3, get our prosperity report recap. It's a free resource where we share top tools and resources. Just go to presidentiallifestyle.com/blog/prosperity report. Don't worry, it's in the show notes. You won't have to remember that. And 4, if you really want to connect with us in a deep and powerful way, join our private club. Go to joinpresidentialexperience.com to find out when our doors open again. We want you to be there so you can turn your money into meaning. And if you're enjoying this podcast, go ahead and leave us a rating and a comment, and we'll be sure to thank you. And now for the legalese. Remember, this podcast is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for informational and entertainment purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional that you can discuss your specific situation with, whether therapeutic or otherwise. That's all for now. I'll see you next episode. And remember, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.